They say one man's trash is another man's treasure. And this time, Rick Ness really found such a treasure. In the far woods, under layers of mud and rust, Rick found an old abandoned tunnel, a massive gold processing machine that had been lying idle for decades. But surprisingly, the machine was not empty. Gold was found inside it. And not just a little, a lot. So much so that the team could not believe it. This discovery became one of the biggest of Rick's career, worth an estimated $200 million. Now the question arises, how and why did such a valuable machine and the gold found in it remain untouched for so many years? And what is Rick going to do with it? Watch the video till the end to know the whole story. And if you are a fan of Gold Rush, then subscribe now and press the bell icon because you will find such real discoveries only here in the future. Old mining machines are often discarded as junk, but it's hard to imagine what might be hidden inside them. Rick Ness knows this well. When he and his team visited an old mining area, they found something that stunned everyone. A giant tunnel that had been buried for years under soil and bushes. At first glance, it looked like just a pile of rusty iron. But Rick quickly recognized that this was no ordinary machine. This machine once sifted through tons of soil all day long and extracted gold particles from it. But the technology was old and the emphasis was on power rather than precision. The result, a lot of fine gold was removed along with the soil and that precious dust was still trapped inside the machine. As Rick began removing dirt from the surface of the machine, he noticed something shining. At first, it seemed like an illusion of light, but when he got closer, his facial expression changed. It was gold and not just some specks, flakes of real solid gold. The treasure, undiscovered for so many years, was finally being revealed. There had been buzz about this place for years. Some said the site belonged to a big mining company that shut down due to lack of money. Others said the soil here was still full of gold. But no one had ever dared until Rick stepped in. As exciting as it is to restore old mining equipment to working order, it can be challenging in reality. And Rick Ness quickly learned that the place where he hoped to find gold was facing a daunting task. A giant broken, rusted tunnel. The machine was not only out of order, but was in such poor condition that it could collapse at a touch. Rick knew that if he was to extract gold from this area, he had to revive the machine first, and that was no easy task. The first hurdle was getting the massive machine safely out of the jungle. The machine was solidly built, but time had worn away its bones. Rust, dirt, and moisture had eaten into every part. The inside is custom-made, and keeping it running is as much work as a full-time job. Rick said at one point moving the machine was also risky. One small mistake, and the entire structure could collapse. The team had to take every step carefully from engineering to transportation, taking care of every little detail. And that was just the beginning. When the tunnel was brought to a stable place, the real hard work began. Every part had to be disassembled. The gears were jammed, the screens were full of dirt, and the drum was somehow hanging on. This wasn't just a repair. It was like rebuilding the entire machine. Every day brought a new difficulty. Parts were not available. Rusted bolts wouldn't budge, and time was running out. The pressure on the team was mounting because everything depended on whether they would be able to get this machine working again or not. And giving up was not an option. Sometimes the real hard work begins when others give up. Rick Ness did just that. When the old machine was somehow restarted, the team hoped that something good would come out of it. But what happened was beyond everyone's expectations. While cleaning up the area around the machine, the team found an old stockpile that is previously deposited soil that no one had ever processed. At first glance, the pile looked like a normal place, but when it was examined, the level of gold was astonishing. Rick had never seen such a quantity of gold in one place before. This was no small sample. The entire site could become a gold mine in itself. Rick knew there was no time to waste. Building a large wash plant was not possible at this time. So, he immediately built a temporary processing setup where old and new methods were combined to work. This time, Rick was determined. Not a single speck would be left behind. The result far beyond expectations. The pile of gold grew every day, and before long, it was clear that Rick wasn't just having a great run. He had made the biggest discovery of his career with estimates placing the total value at over $200 million. At the start of any mining project, it's hard to predict where it will end up. For Rick Ness, it was just a matter of trying to fix a broken machine, a trommel, but the result was something else altogether. As the gold recovered, its value grew from thousands to millions to hundreds of millions. The team's hard work paid off, and this run turned out to be Rick's most successful. But the real surprise came when Rick's team started digging deeper, not just into the ground, but into old documents related to the site. They found a bunch of old mining records, which seemed normal at first, but on closer inspection, it became clear that these were not just notes, but a complete map of the old digging sites, and they were all connected to the same machine, the trommel. As the team analyzed the documents, a bigger picture began to emerge. This machine was not part of a single site, but part of a large, well-organized mining network, now completely lost to time. The records mentioned places where gold was found to be exceptionally high, but those areas were never worked again. It was almost a forgotten treasure map now in Rick's hands. For Rick, it was an opportunity. Now we have to see how the recovery is, and then we have to seriously sit down and decide on the plant. Rick said the pressure is increasing and decisions need to be made quickly. Now Rick had the information, new resources, and a clear direction. The search was not over. It was just beginning. But before moving forward, there was one more task: getting the trommel fully operational and reviving the story of the past. The decision to repurpose old machinery is never easy, especially when it has been gathering dust and in poor condition for decades. But for Rick Ness, it wasn't just about profit. It was about hard work and respect for history. The trommel machine clearly had been used in the mine for years. Every scratch, rusted bolt, and worn panel testified that the machine had once sifted through thousands of tons of soil and rock. Rick didn't take any chances. He called in a team of experienced technicians and made it clear everything must be perfect. The slightest defect or oversight could jeopardize the entire operation. Months of work began. Slowly, each part was dismantled, cleaned, and reassembled. It wasn't just a repair. It was a rebirth. When the machine finally started running again, it wasn't just a machine. It was an example. Everyone was amazed at the speed and cleanliness with which the soil was being processed. The tiny flakes and gold crystals were being separated quickly. Rick and his team knew the real hard work was about to begin. Starting the trommel was just one step. Now they had to get to the soil and history that had been forgotten, but which still held something precious. People usually only pay attention to what's right in front of their eyes. But the real stories of mining are often in the past. And that's what Rick found. An old machine that was once a masterpiece of engineering but had been forgotten. Today, that machine is alive again. And with it, a forgotten era is making a comeback. Before the start of each mining season, Rick Ness has only one goal: to find possibilities in what others have left behind. This time, he spotted a heavy machine that had been lying in the middle of the forest for years. The trommel, an old gold processing machine that had been nearly swallowed up by the soil and undergrowth. Most people would have discarded it as junk, but Rick saw clearly this was an opportunity, not a pile of useless iron. Old mining machines have a peculiarity. They often leave gold trapped in the soil, never fully extracted. This was not a guess, but a practical risk that Rick had carefully planned for. The two plants we tested today were important. Now we have to make quick decisions because time is running out, Rick explained. Removing the trommel from the forest was a big task in itself. The machine was not only heavy but was also rooted to the ground. Cranes, trucks, and an experienced team were used to get it to the workshop. Now the real work began. Cleaning, repairs, and upgrades. Every part was tested, old gear was removed, and new technology components were installed. The motor was replaced, sensors were added so that the machine would not only run, but perform at the state-of-the-art level. The Rick Ness team took another smart step. They created a 3D digital model of the trommel. All changes were tested on this virtual machine first to save time and money. In addition, the ground was scanned using drone technology, making it even more accurate to identify gold res. When everything was ready and the trommel started working, the results were even better than expected. The old machine was now extracting gold with a new energy, and the once abandoned site was once profitable again. The The $200 million discovery proved that Rick's instincts and hard work had paid off in ways no one could have imagined. Old equipment is often discarded as junk, especially when it hasn't been used for years. But Rick Ness's team changed that thinking. They proved that by combining old machines with new ideas and technology, they can not only be reused, but also be used to produce results that are far beyond expectations. The trommel didn't just get repaired, it got a new life. And its success got the mining industry thinking. Rick's team upgraded the machine with modern technology, making gold recovery faster and more accurate with a much lower environmental impact than traditional methods. Soon, the story began to spread. Miners, engineers, and researchers began scouring old documents looking for machines that could be revived. It was a new gold rush of sorts, but this time the treasure was in the machines themselves. The most important part of this whole journey was that Rick's team didn't just extract gold. They changed the way mining was perceived. People realized that mining was not just about digging and extracting, but also about understanding, responsibility, and thinking about the future. The trommel was no longer just a machine. It had become a symbol of the power of thinking to rediscover opportunities missed in the past. This project proved a simple thing. With courage and vision, even a pile of rusty iron can once again yield gold worth $200 million. This wasn't just a victory for Rick's team. It signaled a new direction for the entire industry, and it showed that sometimes all it takes is an old machine and a new approach to bring about change. Often in the mining industry, machines are replaced as soon as they become outdated, even if they still have the capability to function. But Rick Ness's team chose a different path. And that approach has now become a leading example. Their initiative didn't just change the way mining is done. It also gave a new direction to technology and research. Today, many universities and research institutes are working on algorithms that can analyze whether old equipment is reusable or not. This is reducing waste of resources and making the most of the machines. This thinking is not just limited to the Yukon. Now, mining teams in regions such as Australia, South America, and Africa are taking another look at their abandoned projects, wondering if they may have inadvertently overlooked some hidden treasure. The economic impact of this change is also clearly visible. Where this new approach is being adopted, old mining towns are beginning to revive. New jobs are being created. Sales at stores and small businesses are increasing, and the local economy is coming back to life. Not just companies, but environmental organizations are also keeping an eye on this change. While mining was once seen as harmful to the environment, Rick's team has shown that with the right planning and technology, gold can be extracted without destroying new land. They have proven that when we focus on previously mined soil and abandoned resources, not only do we reduce costs, but we also reduce unnecessary digging and damage to nature. Rick himself says, "I'm now running the same setup that has been a dream of mine for years. It's very special for me to see it come alive again and deliver results like this." The great thing about this project is that it's not just changing mining. It's changing lives. Cities that were once deserted are now becoming active again. New people are coming. Employment is increasing and positive change is being felt at every level. When work stops at a site,